سلام و درود خدمت همه دوستان عزیز. امیدوارم حالتون فوق العاده باشه. من لایو امروز رو که ساعت 8:30 بعد برگزار میشد چند دقیقه زودتر برگزار کردم تا اطمینان حاصل کنم که همه چیز اوکیه، تا مهمونمون رو دعوت کنم. سلام عرض میکنم خدمت همه دوستانی که اومدن و به من پیوستن. امیدوارم که حالتون عالی باشه، آدینتون به خیر باشه. سلام به همه دوستان. امروز یک مهمون بسیار ویژه داریم. امروز قراره یک مصاحبه با آقای جان اصرف انجام بدیم. حتما آقای جان اصرف رو اسمشو شنیدید، توی این پیج از گذشته در مورد ایشون صحبت کردم. 2 تا اثر پرفروش داره آقای جان اصرف که جفتشو خوندم و خیلی دوستشون داشتم، به خاطر همین از ایشون دعوت کردم که مهمون ما توی لایو باشن. یکیش کتاب پاسخه که ایشون نوشتن و انتشارات نسل نواندیش چاپ کردن، و یک کتاب دیگه شون هم اینر سایز، کتاب اینر پرورش ذهن، در مورد پرورش ذهنه که سال 2018 چاپ شده. کتاب فوق العاده بی‌نظیریه و من که کلی ازش انگیزه گرفتم و دوستش دارم. امروز قراره با نویسنده کتاب پاسخ و اینر سایز صحبت کنیم و توی لایو بمونین تا انتهای لایو. خیلی حمایت بزرگیه، چون یکی از دلایلی که افراد خارجی قبول میکنن لایو با ما رو همین دیدناست، همین حمایت کردناست و همین افرادی هن که توی لایو هستن. بودنتون یه حمایت خیلی بزرگه، پس انتهای لایو با من همراه باشید. 1 دقیقه مونده تا من بتونم آقای جان اصرف رو دعوت کنم به لایومون. یه نکته دیگه هم که وجود داره، به خاطر اینکه زمانی که ما از نویسندگان خارجی میگیریم خیلی ارزشمنده و خیلی ویدیوهای ارزشمندی میتونه تهیه بشه و خیلی سوالات خوبی میشه پرسید. به خاطر همین من سعی میکنم توی این لایو ترجمه همزمان نداشته باشم و لایو به زبان انگلیسی برگزار بشه تا همه سوالات پرسیده بشه. سوالات خیلی زیاده، تقریبا 19-20 سوال خودم نوشتم، سوالات شما هم هست. ترجیح میدم لایو رو به زبان انگلیسی برگزار کنم، ولی امیدتون از دست ندین، توی لایو حتما باشید. بعد از حالا چند روز این لایو رو زیرنویس میذاریم و به صورت رایگان در اختیار شما قرار خواهیم داد. به خاطر زبانش لایو رو ترک نکنید و حتما باشید. هم لایو سیف میشه، همین که بعدا زیرنویس میذاریم و در اختیارتون قرار میدیم، ولی تو لایو با من حتما تا انتها همراه باشید. اتفاق شگفت انگیزیه. یادم اولین لایوی که با یک نویسنده خارجی برگزار کردیم خیلی لایو موفقیت آمیزی بود. با آقای برانت منسوار برگزار کردیم، با آقای نیریال لایو برگزار کردیم که واقعا نویسنده معروفیه در سطح جهان. با آقای ایوان کارمایکل لایو برگزار کردیم که 20مین سوشال میدیا مارکتر برتر دنیاست و این بار هم در خدمت آقای جان اصرف هستیم. با چند تا نویسنده بزرگ دیگه هم صحبت کردم که در هفته‌های آتی باهاشون لایو خواهیم داشت. خب من اینجا اسمشون رو سرچ کنم. منتظریم که آقای جان اصرف بیان و به ما بپیوندن. خب آقای جان اصرف, John, if you're here with us, you kindly send a request and then I'll accept your request and we're gonna have our live. Here I've got a request from John. Hello?
Hey there.
Hi, John.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic.
Thanks for making time for us. It's my pleasure to talk to you. I love your books.
My joy and thank you. Where's home for you?
Oh, I didn't hear you. Can you possibly repeat?
Where are you calling from or coming in from? I'm in San Diego.
Yeah, I'm from Tehran. I'm calling you from Iran. And
Nice.
here I have one of your books, Paso
Okay.
Response, and you have written this book. Yeah.
There's that one.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. I read it many years ago, and also I read Inner Sides. That was amazing, and yeah,
That
that
one.
was great. That was great. That was great. We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Yeah, many of my followers know you, John. But before we start our live, I have a request. Can you possibly make a really short introduction of yourself? Why did you start your job as an author, a public speaker, and what motivates you, and so on? What have you done, and what did you do in your life, your entire life? Thank you.
Sure. So I didn't start off as an author. I
Mm-hmm.
started off like everyone else. I'm a curious individual who wants to achieve success in health and family and
Mm-hmm.
relationship and wealth, so I can enjoy my life, share it with others. And I discovered I have a passion for the human brain. And why do we do the things that we do? Why is it so hard sometimes? Why do I have fear of failure? Or why do I have limiting beliefs that I can't achieve what I want to achieve? Why do I sometimes feel like, am I smart enough? Am I good enough to achieve those things that I want? And as I've been, learning, researching, I'm a behavioral neuroscience researcher, which is what I do every single day to understand behavior, right? So no differently than, you have studied reading and speed reading and memory, and you really dove deep into it to understand how powerful the human brain is. It's just as powerful when you set your mind to achieve a goal and you upgrade your knowledge and you upgrade your skills and you're passionate about what you do, that you're going to overcome any obstacle no matter what. Well, are there ways to do that a little bit easier? Are there ways to really figure out how can I have an amazing life, which is what I want for me, and I want that for everybody else too. So I
Mm-hmm.
built some companies, some pretty good companies, by applying the principles of success, and that's a little bit about my life. I'm
Mm-hmm.
married. I
Thank
have
you.
two wonderful sons who are 25 and 26 years young. And I live in San Diego, and let's have some fun. And I started to write many years ago to share what I have learned to make people's lives a little bit easier and more enjoyable.
Thank you. Thank you. What I understood from your words was that you had some questions, and the answer of those questions drove you through the way, and now you have written two great and precious books. First, let's start with
Four.
two best-selling books, two best-selling ones. First, let's start with your book Inner Size. It was published in 2018, and I really like this book. And the title of the book is really amazing. It has a lot to say. Can you possibly elaborate more on the title Inner Size? What do you mean by inner size? Do we have something like inner size? Or what should we do to have an inner size?
Sure. I think everybody who's watching knows the word exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So what did we discover? There was a gentleman by the name of Jack LaLanne back in the
Mm-hmm.
60s and 1970s. He started to do a lot of teaching exercise. He came up with, jumping jack. That's where jumping jack comes from, because he was teaching people you should exercise to make your muscles stronger. You should exercise to make your internal organs stronger. And that was great. And then in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, Olympic athletes, astronauts, Navy SEALs, they were doing things like sitting down quietly and seeing a routine for the Olympics, for example, or seeing, you know, how to do something with their eyes closed in case they were up in space and all the lights went out and the electricity went out and they had to memorize where all the buttons were with their eyes closed. So they were in essence practicing mental techniques or inner sizing some neuromuscles. So whether it's the neuromuscle of memory, whether it's the neuromuscle of focus, whether it's the neuromuscle of self-esteem, the neuromuscle of awareness, the neuromuscle of habits, we develop these patterns in our stronger and stronger connections that are like muscles in our bicep or our chest or our legs. So I discovered that over the last 40, every day, I have been inner sizing to get clearer on my vision, my goals, my strategies, my self-confidence, my aware. I've been doing mental and emotional techniques based on the latest neuroscience research to strengthen the neuromuscles to help me achieve my goals and to weaken the muscles that take me away from achieving my goals. So we know that our brain is pliable, it's moldable. We can create new connections, and those connections are our beliefs, our perspectives, our habits, our skills, our paradigms, and our behaviors. So we become accustomed to certain neuromuscles firing easily, and others are not so easy. And here is the big aha. We have way more control than we think we do to control even our own brain. So inner size is a way to be proactively at strengthening the things that you want to strengthen and weaken the things that you want to weaken, like bad habits.
Really nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is amazing. And you said that we can change our brain, we can change our minds, we can make new habits, we can make new beliefs. And as everyone knows, we call this law of psychology neuroplasticity. Can you please talk more about neuroplasticity? Because I think this matter is really significant and everyone should go deep into this really important thing. Sure. So what is neuroplasticity? How can we empower, as you said in your book, how can we empower neuroplasticity and we benefit from it? We benefit from it.
Give me 1 second, I'll show you something.
Thank you. Okay.
Up until about 20 years ago, you know, when we looked at the human brain, this obviously is plastic, but when somebody died and we took their, you know, their skull off and we had the brain, we couldn't see what was happening deep inside the brain. We just thought, okay, here's a brain with different structures. We didn't know what the different structures were. We didn't know what was happening on the left side or the right side or the parietal lobe or the occipital lobe. We didn't know what was happening with we didn't know. We didn't have the specific detailed information or the user's manual at the level that we have it today. But one of the things that scientists believed is that, you know, mother and father get together, they have sex, the mother has, you know, her genetic backing and father has his genetics and they combine together, and that we become just like our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and we are hardwired because of genetics. That's what the belief used to be. But over the last 20 years, because we have microscopes and SPECT scans or CAT scans or MRIs that you can actually see deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper levels of the brain, we use, for example, microscopes to look deep, 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 deep into things. We use telescopes to look out. So what we've discovered in the laboratories is that our brain is made up of 100 billion brain cells, like marbles. Okay, like marbles. So we're born with these marbles, and these marbles then make connections. And then those connections get reinforced based on what our parents tell us, our teachers, our environment, our school, our experiences, the meaning we give things, the things that get associated together. So scientists discovered that, hey, you're not hardwired. Even if you have behaviors like your father or mother, you can change those. You have 100 billion marbles or brain cells that you can deliberately create new connections. And if you repeat those patterns, you reinforce them, then you can get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. The exact same way as if you have a weak bicep and you start doing a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow and a little bit the next day, you build a muscle. Well, inside our brain, we are able to build these new neuromuscles based on the brain's ability to create new connections. Not only can we create new connections, but what we also discovered is that when we create new connections because we want more positive, more constructive connections and more powerful beliefs or habits or behaviors, if we invest the time to create them over 30 days, 60 days, 180 days, what our brain does, which is magical, is our brain is very, very smart. It says, okay, you're putting in effort, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Instead of you putting in the effort to have to think about it, I'm just gonna automate it so you don't have to think about it. I'm just gonna make this pattern a habit. So the science of neuroplasticity starts off with you're not hardwired, and even the patterns that you have right now that are strong, you can weaken them by not using them very much, and you can create new ones and reinforce those, and those will now help create your life, your habits, your behaviors. Now, here's the problem. Intellectually, it makes sense, right? Intellectually, yes. Eating right makes sense. Intellectually, exercise makes sense. Intellectually, being positive makes sense. But if you don't have the habit, which is without thought, then you have to, for a period of time, you have to deliberately put in the energy, time, and attention until you build the habit. And you know from the work that you do, you can teach somebody ways to memorize better. In 5 minutes, you can teach me 1 or 2 techniques, right? Yes. But unless I practice those techniques, I don't get good at it. So yeah, I have awareness, but I don't have skill, right? So skill is developed through space repetition and practice. And practice is what makes permanent. Now, most people don't want to practice. They want the results, but they don't want the practice. They want the great life. They want the great body. They want the energy. They want, but what they don't want is to do the work.
Action.
Is to do the work, to create, right? Yeah. The results so it's sustainable. And one of the things that we teach, especially when I work with professional athletes, is this: Amateurs practice it once or twice till they get it right, and professionals practice until they can't get it wrong.
Nice word. Nice word.
Right?
Thank you. Amazing. And you have finished talking about neuroplasticity. There's one common issue, common problem between people. They before the live, I asked people whether they have questions to ask from you or not. I had many questions here. One of the things that is repeated in the question is that we know what should we do, we know our goal, and we know how should we act, but we don't have the motivation. For example, we wake up in the morning, we know that we should change the world, that we have to study, we have to read 4 hours, we have to practice. But when it comes to practicing or studying or reading, it is as if there is no fuel in our body. Our body doesn't accompany us in doing those things. Do you have any specific and practical formula to increase motivation? What is motivation and how can we empower and work on this?
Sure. So let's understand the word motivation, right? The word motivation means my motive for action. My motive for action. What's my motive for action, right? So everybody thinks that motivation is some kind of a chemical. It's not. Every time I work with anybody, it doesn't matter if you're a student, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, an astronaut, doesn't matter. When they say to me, I really want to achieve that, I really want to have that, I ask them a question. Why must you have that? Not why do you want to. Why must you? So they tell me, I must because, and they give me reasons why they must. And I go, now, why is that critical for you to do? Then I ask them this question. Are these reasons why you must bigger than your laziness? Are they bigger than your habits? Are they bigger than your fears? Are they bigger than your stories? Are they bigger than your excuses? Because if your why you must is not bigger than your stories, reasons, excuses, and habits, your stories, reasons, excuses, and habits and fears will win. But if your must, why I must, is bigger, you will win. So that's part one. Part two. Every human being is 100% disciplined to their current habits. Every human being is disciplined 100% already to their current habits. So the next part of the equation is, what do you know about your habits? What do you know about what triggers your habit, what causes the behavior, and what's the reward you are getting by fulfilling and following through on that habit? And 99 out of 100 people, almost 99.9 out of 100 people go, I don't know. And so here's my question for you. Do you own one of these? Not a plastic brain, but a real brain. Do you own one? Do you have one of these?
Everyone does.
Everybody has one. Do you know that scientists have tried to spend over $100 billion to create one, and we can't? That does what your brain already does? So my question for you is this. If somebody, let's say one of the richest women or men in the world, gave you a $100 billion computer that could solve any problem you have, that can help you achieve anything you want, but you would need to learn how to use it better. Would you start to practice and learn how do I use it? What's in here? Well, you already own a $100 billion brain. But how much time do you invest every day learning how to use it better? And most people, the answer is zero.
Zero. Yeah.
Zero.
More than 90%.
they listen, they come to, you know, interviews like this, they read, but how much time are you using learning how to use your $100 billion biocomputer? And the answer is zero. So if you don't understand how your brain works to keep you alive, how your brain works to avoid pain or discomfort, how your brain works to conserve energy, how your brain will do more to avoid pain or discomfort than it will to gain pleasure, and if you don't know how to get rid of habits that are keeping you stuck, as you develop new habits that will empower you and help you achieve your goals, then why should you win? Like, why should you win if you're not willing to put the investment of your time to learn how to use what you already own, your own brain, better? So motivation, you're not lacking motivation. You're just motivated to keep achieving the results you're achieving. That's what you are wired to be motivated to do. And that you're not staying in bed in the morning because you're lazy. You're staying in bed in the morning because you're comfortable achieving what you're achieving. And you don't have a reason why you must break that pattern.
Exactly. Nice definition of motivation. And there's also another common belief between people, and that is this. For example, they wait up until the motivation comes to their mind, to their body, and then they start acting. But some people start acting and they get mini results, small results, and those results help reduce dopamine in their brain, and they get happy, and then they repeat it, and then they have the motivation. We should act in order to have motivation. We shouldn't sit up until motivation comes to our brain. Do you agree with what I say? Action brings motivation. Is it a good formula?
Yeah, there's some stuff that you can do before action as well to increase motivation. And so I'll give you an example. I want everybody to think about this for just a moment. Imagine, if you could for just a moment, that in the next 30 days, you're able, if you close your eyes, you just feel this, you're able to gain more self-confidence, gain more certainty, and you're able to figure out, you know, how to earn an extra 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000, you know, dollars or whatever currency you want. And then you could take that money and pay off some debt. Or you could take some money and give it to the charity that would make your heart feel so good. Or you could help your parents or your brother or a pet. You could do something with that money that would give you the most incredible feeling inside your heart. As soon as you think about that, you've just released dopamine in your brain. Yeah. That increases not only dopamine and the motivational center of your brain, but it actually also lights up the Einstein part of your brain, the left prefrontal cortex, which is the genius part of your brain. Not only that, but it also is connected to the behavioral center in your brain, which is the motor cortex that says, God, what can I do to do that? So if you want to understand how to activate the circuit of motivation and behavior and your genius part of your brain, you don't have to even take action yet. You can actually mentally rehearse it first, feel it, and then say, okay, now I'm ready to go. So you can take action and feel it, or you can do an inside out game or an inner size to be able to get those circuits going on. If you think about this, what do we know about this brain again? Well, we know that it has three key networks, like a computer network, three networks, and a bunch of circuits that turn on or off. Well, if motivation is a circuit, is it possible for me to learn how do I activate my own motivational circuit? If fear is a circuit, and it is it possible that I can become more aware when the circuit is firing automatically, no differently than if I'm driving a car and all of a sudden the light comes up on my dashboard? That's a circuit. I don't take a hammer and hit the light. I'm just aware of it, and then I say, oh, I'm low on gas. Oh, the back right tire, all right, is low on air. A circuit is a signal. What if I can become better equipped at noticing and how to turn on or off my own motivational circuit, spiritual circuit, turn off the fear circuit, turn down the stress circuit, turn down the anxiety or panic or uncertainty circuit. Mm-hmm. When these circuits turn on or off, they are reactions to something. Well, can I deliberately turn on a circuit or off? Yes. If you don't know how to, no. That's ignorance, not a matter of ability. You may not know how, but that doesn't mean you can't. So now it's time, let me upgrade my awareness. Let me upgrade my skill. And in upgrading my awareness and skill, like if I said to everybody, right, could you upgrade your skill at reading faster? Well, of course I could. Could I upgrade my math skills if I practiced? Of course I could. Could I get into better shape if I exercised a little bit more? Of course I could. But the fact that you could doesn't mean you will.
You have to take action. You have to practice. And there's something, John. When, for example, it has happened to everyone, when, for example, they have the awareness, they have the motivation, they start acting and they don't have the focus, they don't have the concentration. For example, we are living in a very crowded world. We have new technologies. We have our phone, Instagram, Telegram, WhatsApp, many messages coming to us, and we have to respond in emails. And these things are driving people crazy. They know that they should finish, for example, this project or that, but their phone doesn't let them do so. And how can we manage this focus, this concentration? Is there any technique or formula to work on focus and concentration? And what is focus? What is concentration? You have a really good definition of these two in your book. It is really nice. Can you possibly repeat that and elaborate more on these two issues, people?
Yeah, so let's talk about, cell phones first, right? And let's talk about our computers, cell phones, social media. If you think about, why do we get addicted to these technologies or software? And the reason is they're designed to activate the reward center of the brain and the dopamine centers of the brain. So, when I post something, then I'm opening up a loop in my brain after I've got a hit of the reward center. I've just shared something, and now there's this open loop that says, I wonder who's going to see it and who's going to respond and who's going to like. So now I'm activating a variety of different circuits of anticipation, of curiosity, of reward. And so once we start getting into this loop of activating these circuits that open and want to be closed and then open and closed, now I'm caught up in a system that is predicated on creating addictive behavior, right? So first and foremost, there isn't a problem with your cell phone. There isn't a problem with your social media. The problem is your lack of awareness and understanding on how to control your impulses. The issue is there, so let's not blame it on the technology, right? It's no different than you have a knife in your kitchen. Why don't you go and cut yourself? the knife can kill you, it could kill me, a car can kill somebody. So let's not blame it on the technology or the tools. Let's take responsibility to say, okay, this is a tool that can cause me to have addictive behaviors. This is a tool that is trying to get me back on the platforms because of the advertisers paying them to do so. So it's commerce. But let's set that aside for just a moment. And let's talk about our ability to focus or concentrate. We live in a world right now where everybody is distracted. Just like you said, television, radio, texting, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and more. And so when we lack self-control, then we're controlled by outside circumstances. Is it possible that no differently than the sun, could warm up your skin? If you have a magnifying glass and you focus the magnifying glass, okay, it just takes the sun and magnifies the sun so that you could burn a piece of paper through the magnifying glass. You can take the same energy and you can create a single photon. That's called a laser. Now, what if I shared with you that your brain has the same ability? You can have general scattered thoughts and general scattered behaviors here and there and this and that and go from this and go to that. But you can also say, stop. Let me breathe for 1 minute. In through my nose, slowly, and then out through my mouth, slowly. In through my nose. Out through my mouth. What if I shared with you that if you just did that every half an hour for 1 minute, just 1 minute of practice to slow down, recalibrate, and refocus on what you want, you would deactivate a part of the brain called the sympathetic nervous system, and you'd activate another part of the brain called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system that we use when we are calm, so when we can respond instead of react. In my book, right, in Inner Size, and I don't know whether you got the audios or not that go with it, but there are 9 audios that I give people who buy the book. At the end of every chapter, there's a little barcode that you can click on, and I give you 9 audio exercises worth $200 to be able to practice focus, attention, awareness, intention. So what if I deliberately took 10 or 15 breaks a day for 1 minute, and I calmed myself down long enough to reset and refocus? Do you think that if I did that twice every hour, my brain would then learn to calm down and slow down so I could be deliberate versus reactive? Well, yes, because the science of developing habits says that anything that we consistently repeat with spaced repetition over time, that we allow ourselves to integrate and develop a habit for, which takes between 66 days and 365 days, becomes an automatic pattern. Now, do you think having an automatic pattern of awareness of thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors is a great thing or a great thing? Do you think that having an automatic ability to focus and stay right here, stay focused on this, stay focused on doing, no distract, come back, no distract, come back. Do you think that if we practiced awareness, if we practiced focus, if we practiced being intentional, if we practiced choosing what we want to do versus doing what we react to do. Do you think that our lives could get better in health, wealth, relationships, career, business, finances, spirituality, fun and experiences? Do you think if we were more aware and more deliberate, then we wouldn't be reacting based on other people wanting us to behave or react a certain way? Of course. So that's what's possible, but it's not possible by watching this, little dialogue that you and I are having. It's only possible when you take what you discover and learn and you apply it long enough to stop playing like a kindergartner who's just having fun and games. Because there's different levels to everything in life. There's kindergarten level, grade school, high school, university, and pro level. So if you want pro level results, practice and behave like a pro. And I don't care which part of your life it is. If you want amateur results, play like an amateur, but don't expect pro level results. Don't whine and bitch and complain and hope and pray and wish without behavior.
Practice makes perfect.
No. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Perfect practice.
If you practice the wrong things, you make the wrong things permanent.
Yeah.
So you have to practice perfectly.
Yeah, true. And you mentioned meditation, breathing in and breathing out. This is a really nice technique, and I can say that after I learned how to meditate, my life totally changed. I regained my concentration and focus, and this is really simple, but if we put it into practice and if we mix our feeling with what we are doing, we have to feel that calmness, that peace, and so our life would change. These simple things are really, really helpful, and they can change lives.
Yeah, and there are hundreds of different ways to meditate, right? Prayer is a focused meditation. Affirmations are a focused meditation. Sitting quietly and observing your thoughts and letting them go is a meditation. Observing, our dialogue right now and how you are feeling, how are you breathing, how are you sitting or standing right now, and being aware is a meditation. Being able to close your eyes or even keep your eyes open and look at one thing and not have any thoughts, that's a meditation. And all of them require practice to get better at them. When you're reading a book, and you're not distracted, you're in the book, that's a meditation. When you're watching a movie and somebody's talking to you and you don't hear them because you're so locked into the movie, or watching a sport, that's a form of meditation. Meditation is an art and a science of being able to deliberately get into a state of focus that's a higher vibratory rate than a scattered brain of this and that and this and that. I got to do this, I got to do that. What about this? And I got the kids and money and school. And that's scattered. Calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down. Sometimes we need to slow down to pick up speed. Sometimes we need to slow down to pick up speed. And sometimes they say that slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah, really nice word. I really enjoy it. And as you said, meditation is not a technique, it is a lifestyle. We have to leave meditation. We shouldn't do meditation. We can have meditation in every single moments of our life, and we have to get relaxed, and we have to experience the flow. The flow is really important. And thank you very much. And my other question, everyone who is listening to our conversation might get motivated and might think that the way I have in front of me is a really hard way, and to live like professionals is really hard and it can be impossible. And they have something like a fear, a kind of fear, and that fear is the obstacle, and they cannot start, they cannot act. How can we manage the fear? Always, I'm sure that sometimes the fear is positive and helps us, but sometimes it stops us. It stops us from going forward. How can we manage the fear? What happens in our brain when we feel fearful?
Sure. So in my little home studio, everybody sees my Einstein picture there, but I also have up there, can you see Frankenstein's monster?
Yeah.
So why do I have that in my studio? Well, let's come back to our brain a little bit, right? And we have these two lobes in the front of our brain. It's called the frontal lobes. The left one, okay, over here, over your left eye, inside your brain, that's the Einstein part of your brain. And that's the part of your brain that has goals. That's the part of your brain that says, well, I could do this and I could do that and we could do that and we could try that and I can imagine, what it would be like, and that's so good. But very, very next to that Frankenstein, or is that Frankenstein part of your brain, it's that right prefrontal cortex, and its responsibility, okay, pay attention everyone, its responsibility is to save you and protect you in case of danger, whether it's real or imagined. So that part of your brain is not your enemy. That part of your brain could be your greatest friend and ally, because it says, hey, what if you try that and you fail? Then what? Will you lose money? Will you be embarrassed? Will you be ashamed? Will you be judged? Will you be rejected by your friends or your family? Will you disappoint yourself or your family or friends? So it's almost like having gas and brake in a car. You need both. Right? So the Einstein part of the brain has big visions, goals, dreams, aspirations, but this other part of our brain's there to protect you. So first and foremost, there's nothing wrong with feeling fear. It's a normal, instinctual part of your brain that's evolved and kept you and me and our families, our parents and grandparents and great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents alive. So first and foremost, let's celebrate that part of our life. Part one. Part two, fear sets off a chemical and electrical reaction in the brain, and it releases neurochemicals, cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline, norepinephrine, and that feeling is like, oh, it's like we had too much coffee. It's like, oh, I don't like this, right? A little bit is okay, but too much is too anxious and nervous. And so we want to move away from the feeling of fear. But what if I said to you, hey, the next time you feel fear, first I want you to take 6 deep breaths like I showed you before to calm the fear circuit, so that you can actually use the Einstein part of your brain to understand it. So let's say that the reason the fear trigger is because you're afraid of failure. Okay? Then I'm going to ask you, what does failure mean to you? Does failure mean you're a failure? Or does failure mean I just tried something that didn't work? Now, if you're making an assumption that failure means you're a failure, you really don't have a healthy understanding of who and what you are. Because one of the ways to success is through failures, lots and lots and lots of failures. What if you learned how to say, If I fail, I'm not going to be less than anything. It just means what I've tried has failed. Let me try something else. What if I fail and I learn some things that I need to learn? So we can learn how to give failure a meaning that empowers us instead of disempowers us. What if I'm afraid of being rejected? Then I can ask myself in a calm state using my Einstein brain, why am I afraid of being rejected? What meaning, okay, does it really have? Right? And what we're going to discover is sometimes, you know, it's our self-image and self-worth that's we're trying to protect. So we prefer not to fail because it might mean that I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy. And why would I want to feel that? So anytime we feel fear, we can actually learn how to use fear as fuel to move us forward instead of learning how to hold us back. But this is a skill because there's only 4 things that will hold people back. Fear is one of them, and there's 50 different types of fears. Self-image, self-worth, self-esteem is another one. Limiting beliefs is another one. And a lack of knowledge and skill is the 4th one. Any one of those 4 can keep us stuck repeating old patterns and keeping us in our comfort zone. So here is my question for all of you that are watching. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to master disappointment over and over and over again in your life? Or do you prefer mastering how to change? Which one? Master disappointment, you're going to be stuck forever. Mastering change, you will be free forever. And in life, you're either going to pay the price of discipline or you will pay the price of regret. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. Yeah. Which discipline do you want to pay? And I've got time just, you know, for one final question.
Okay. Thank you. It was really nice. You said that we should accept that there's a part of our brain which is in charge of fear, and another part which is in charge of creativity and hope, and like gas and brake. And that was really amazing and very nice recommendation. My last question, John. As you know, we are dealing with this great pandemic all around the world. And as you know, I'm talking to you from Iran, Tehran, which is under strict sanctions. Many people in here have lost their hope. They say we don't have any good future, nice future isn't waiting for us. And they have this question. In these times, pandemic from one side, ruining their businesses, sanctions from the other, ruining their businesses. Yeah. They try, they fail, and they say the strategies and the techniques are for an ideal place. For example, a normal place, and we are not living in a normal place, as they call. In this situation, how can we remain hopeful, and how can we continue stay optimistic?
Yeah, so there's a couple of directions I want to explore. Mm-hmm. First, it's how does our brain work, right? And how our brain works. When we are focusing, for example, on the sanctions, on the problems, on the pandemic, on what's not working, and that's what occupies our mind, and that's what occupies our emotions, that's what's going to drive our behavior. But I want you to understand something about how the brain works. I'm going to give you a very, very good visual. I want you to imagine that you have a radio in front of you, a radio with a dial, and at, let's say, 90.0, Okay, there's wonderful Arabic music. At 95.1, it's jazz. At 95.2, it's rock and roll. At 95.3, it's classical music. At 95.4, it's punk rock. So all of these stations are available, one next to each other. Got that?
Yeah.
As soon as we lock in on one station, what happens to all the other stations? You can't hear them.
Disappear.
They disappear, even though they're there. And all you have to do is change the dial, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me share something with you that happens in our brain. If we are focusing, okay, on the problems, if we're focusing on the sanctions, if we're focusing on what's not working, if we're focusing on it's bad, it's poor, I don't have a future, what am I going to do? All that stuff, we are locking out all of the other possibilities. Now, let me say, what we don't want to do is pretend that those things aren't happening. We know they're happening, but is it possible that we could be focusing on, even though this is happening, even though that happened, even though that happened, how can I become more successful? How can I thrive? How can I be healthier? How can I do something that's different? How can I? See, if this is the greatest biocomputer in the whole world and we all own one, it's easy to focus on why we can't. It's easy. It's harder to focus on how we will. Mm-hmm. So what if we just got better at asking questions? What needs to happen in order for me to thrive right now? What knowledge, what skill, what tool, what resource, what person, what environment can I get into to thrive no matter what? And here's what I'm going to ask you. I have many friends, okay, from Iran, many. And we talk about these things all the time. And my question always is, and it's not just Tehran, not just Iran, different parts of the world, are there people right now that are doing really well in Tehran?
Yeah, of course, many.
Oh,
so many.
How come?
They have professional lives, and they have solutions, and yeah, many. Yeah, focus on solutions
more than they do the problems.
Yeah,
They're
of
aware
course.
of the problems and they're figuring out how they can because they must.
Yes, of course.
And many people focus on why they can't because of circumstances.
Yeah, those people who think that they can't, they will find excuses even if they are living in the best country in the world or the greatest country. But it doesn't matter where you live.
Have people here, okay, where we have the ability to do whatever we want for the most part, using the excuses here. Listen, people who always have excuses always have problems, and people who find solutions always find success.
Yeah, so, of course. Thank you, John. Thanks for making time for us. It was a really nice interview. I can say it was one of the best interviews I ever had. Thanks for your energy, your calmness, and it was amazing. Thanks for your book, Inner Size. And if you don't have anything to say, we can say goodbye and hope you the great things.
Well. I appreciate your efforts too. So thank you. And to all my new friends who are watching now as a result of who follow your work, I appreciate you all very much. And God bless you.
Thank you. Have a nice time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. خب دوستان عزیز، من کامنت ها رو باز میکنم. همونطور که دقیقا برنامه ریزی شده بود پیش رفت، سوالا رو پرسیدم، بیشتر سوالا رو پرسیدم. البته بعضی از دوستان شاید انگلیسی بلد نبودن و متوجه بعضی از مسائل نشدن. حتما زیرنویس شده خدمتون تقدیم میکنم. به شدت لایو خوبی بود. نکاتی که گفتن واقعا نکات بی‌نظیری بود. خیلی ارزشمنده به نظر من که این تجربیات داره رایگان در اختیار شما قرار میگیره. اگر که آقای جان اصرف توی سمیناری میخواست دقیقا همین مباحث رو بیان کنه، شاید شما باید $500 $1000 حداقل پول میدادید، 20 میلیون 15 میلیون که برین توی سمینار و این صحبت ها رو بشنوین. و با تلاشایی که ما کردیم خب این شرایط فراهم شد که افراد بیان و رایگان گوش بدن، یاد بگیرن، اجرا کنن و به موفقیت‌های بزرگ برسن. یه دوستی نوشته موقع بازی پرسپولیس لایو، شما بازی پرسپولیس رو با لایو با جان اصرف اگر یکی میکنید واقعا من متاسفم از این دید. تو افرادی که اینجا بودن خب کلی نکات خوب یاد گرفتم. چشم، حتما من در آینده هم لایف خواهم داشت با افراد تاثیرگذار دیگه. پیجشون هم تگ میکنم اگر میشه. نمیدونم چرا این باگ برای اینستا پیش اومده که وقتی من با یه نفر لایو دارم، لایو که قطع میکنم صدا ضعیف میشه و این واقعا خیلی من اذیت میکنه. با این گوشی این اتفاق میفته و حالا سعی میکنم که این گوشی رو این مشکل رو برطرف کنم. خب دوستان، خیلی ممنون که با من همراه بودین. چون صدا ضعیفه دیگه کلا از خدمتتون مرخص میشم، چون هدف فقط لایو با جان اصرف بود. لایو فوق العاده بود، زیرنویس میذاریم برای این لایو و اون رو با شما به اشتراک خواهیم گذاشت. خیلی ممنون که با من همراه بودین. پیج آقای جان اصرف رو تگ میکنم برای اینکه از ما حمایت کنین، ایشون رو فالو کنین و مشکل برطرف خواهد شد. بعضی میگن صدا ضعیفه، بعضی میگن صدا ضعیف نیست. حالا من نمیدونم مشکل از کجاست. خب بسیار عالی، مراقب خودتون باشین. به خداوند بزرگ میسپارمتون و بدرود.